Complex designs become simple when you blend surface and solid modeling. Watch for keyboard shortcuts. They'll appear in the bottom left corner and will start the project with a new component. Next, create a sketch on a vertical construction plane. Use a circumscribed polygon. It aligns easily for our workflow. Begin at the origin to keep it centered on the horizontal flat construction plane, which will be useful later. I'll set the distance to 5 mm, giving the polygon a total height of 10 mm. I recommend using a mouse with a scroll wheel for easy zooming. Activate the construction line setting and create 2 guidelines for the honeycomb pattern. A small symbol appears when you're in the right area, and Fusion helps snap the second line to the middle of the polygon side. Select the rectangular pattern in the sketch environment, the option with unfilled symbols. Include the entire polygon in the pattern and use both construction lines for direction. Set the distribution to spacing and the direction to symmetric to keep the pattern balanced. We need a small gap between the polygons. Since half the polygon is 5 mm, the total height is 10 mm. Setting the spacing slightly above 10 mm ensures a gap between each polygon. For quantity, I won't calculate the exact number now. Instead, I'll create more than needed and use only what's necessary later. It might look intense for now, but this workflow will make perfect sense as the tutorial progresses. We're not focused on the polygons themselves. Using them directly would result in floating objects. Instead, we're working with the space between them. To capture this space, I'm using a 2-point rectangle, though a center rectangle works just as well and is often easier to edit, especially now that everything is centered around the origin. You can position the rectangle visually by aligning it with the grid, but if you prefer more precision, you can use dimensions and measurements to place it accurately. I forgot to turn off construction lines before creating the rectangle. These appear as dashed lines. To fix this, we'll select all parts of the rectangle and convert them to regular lines. Now, we have a close profile between the polygons, forming the base for the pattern. Before we proceed, we need to learn a bit about the measurements. The height from the middle to the top is 22 mm, giving us a total height of 44 mm. Next, create a sketch on the horizontal construction plane. Start your center diameter circle right at the origin. This circle will form a thin cylinder, which we'll use to create the pattern. A diameter of 75 mm feels balanced with the size of our polygon pattern. Use the surface modeling extrude command on this circle. Set the direction to symmetric and make the total cylinder height 44 mm. The measurement setting lets you define either the full or half length. Ensure it matches your intent. A quick check with the view cube confirms the cylinder's correct position relative to the pattern. Quick reminder, save your project regularly. Now, let's extrude the honeycomb pattern. Zoom in to select it easily. Notice how adjusting the rectangle size lets us scale the selection area for future edits. In a future scenario where we edit the design via the timeline, this flexibility ensures seamless adjustments. Extrude the pattern through the surface model with a good margin and set the operation to intersect. This keeps only the intersected areas and removes the rest, leaving us with an infinitely thin pattern. We'll use the thicken command to turn this infinitely thin surface into a solid model. Setting it to 2 mm gives it a distinct, solid look for this tutorial. Using the circular pattern in Fusion is straightforward. A centralized design around the axis makes it even easier since we can use this axis as our pattern reference. For quantity, there's no need for complex calculations. We cut a section from a cylinder and simply increase the quantity until the pattern pieces fit together, aligning where the blue original object meets the gray patterned copies. A quick spin with the view cube confirms we're making progress, though a few adjustments are still needed. We're sketching directly on top of one of the existing bodies to create rings at the top and bottom of the design. If you have a better workflow in mind, drop a comment below. At this stage, just under 6 minutes in, the design is still flexible. It's not fully tied together with user parameters and constraints yet. That's something to refine later, especially if you want to set up controlled adjustments using the timeline. However, user parameters and constraints are beyond the scope of this tutorial. Think a few steps ahead when designing. We only want to create this ring once while keeping flexibility, so a join operation isn't ideal. Instead, using a new body operation gives us two key advantages. You'll see why shortly. Everything looks good, so let's move on to the tough edges. We'll save some work by applying this full round fillet before using the mirror command to duplicate the top. Another benefit of the full round fillet is that it's parametric, meaning it will automatically adjust if we change the top's dimensions later. This fillet workflow is why it was convenient to create a symmetrical design around the horizontal construction and why making the top a separate body was a smart choice. Select the object, choose the mirror plane and keep the operation set to New Body. Once you get familiar with the tools, achieving great accuracy in Fusion becomes second nature. Now, all that's left is the appearance. We have a great opportunity here since we haven't combined all bodies after creating the circular pattern. Let's find an appearance to illustrate what I mean. With separate bodies, you can easily assign different colors to individual parts of the design. However, if you prefer to merge everything into one body, just select all the bodies, activate the Combine command, and you'll instantly see them merge in the browser. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. If you like working with complex patterns, check out this popular video where you learn to build a stunning vase. Don't forget to check the video description for extra learning resources and deals. And if you want more tutorials like this, subscribe to the Maker Letters.